this is it, the last of the booster box days. We're going to cover Scarlet and Violet Era Boost. What do you think of Scarlet and Violet? I do have a question. So I want to know what you guys think of Scarlet and Violet. For a long time, Scarlet and Violet was like not loved. Like a lot of people didn't like it. Now, personally, and I think a lot of you guys, a lot of people who at least watch this channel, you guys have been, for the most part, fairly interested in Scarlet and Violet, fairly interested in the new Pokemon. You like the artwork, things like that. There's some really cool new sets that have come out. But for the most part, every set has at least had some cards that you're chasing, some cards that you find extremely worthwhile as far as opening and the artwork goes and things like that. I think Pokemon has done a pretty good job with Scarlet and Violet, considering the fact that they had to get out of the alternate art era. They had to move into something else. And Pokemon has always struggled with this. They've had situations where they've had something that's done extremely well, but you can only run that for so long before you kind of have to adapt and move into the next big thing that's going to generate excitement. And we went from basically the alternate art era into the illustration rare and the special illustration rare era. Now, there have been a lot of things with pull rates that have been kind of wonky, and we've talked about that a lot over the past couple of weeks. Pull rates were great at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, and then started getting a little bit worse with Paradox Rift, and then got really bad or really difficult with Temporal Forces. But a lot of people got more excited about that because then there was more of a chase that was established. So you can let me know what you think in the comment section down below. There's been a lot of movement when it comes to the Scarlet and Violet era. Now, obviously, it's much less old, like its age. Everything is still very much within the reprint window, but there was a lot of Scarlet and Violet booster boxes that have been printed. When you look at print numbers in general and what Pokemon has put out there for the public to kind of look at, when you're talking about 9 billion cards and then 11 billion cards that have been printed. Now, obviously, you're going to have a lot of foreign languages. You're going to have a lot of energy cards if they consider that. You're going to have a lot of code cards if they consider that. A lot of promo cards if they consider that. But if you look at the amount of products that Pokemon puts out in general, obviously a lot of collection tins, collection boxes, things all over the place. Booster boxes seem to be less available than what they used to be. It seems like Pokemon is kind of adapting a little bit to a different model. Now, I do think that they're stocking a lot more big box stores than what they used to, but looking at what's happening with booster boxes in the Scarlet and Violet generation, it is very interesting. We're going to start out looking at just Scarlet and Violet base, for example. Now, this product did drop considerably after release. Now, this set has only been out for about a year and a half, so not a whole lot of age to it. Starting to exit out of the reprint window, but it will be around in format for at least another year yet. So competitive play, if people want to play Miraidon or if people want to play Gardevoir, it should be around for at least another year. You think that competitive play, once we hit rotation, let's say rotation hits at, you know, what they've done, basically March, April of 2025, it should probably be Scarlet and Violet on. But you really never know with Pokemon. With Scarlet and Violet, there was a lot out there. There still is a lot out there. You can still find Scarlet and Violet at distribution for fairly inexpensive at wholesale pricing. And you can actually find it TikTok deals, cases on eBay for cheaper than wholesale pricing. But it is starting to move in the upper direction quite a bit. You can see in June of 2023, so not long after Scarlet and Violet came out, it was around $100. So it was about $101.94. That was its high point, and it really got hit hard as people continued to focus on the Sword and Shield era because they weren't thrilled with what was going on with Scarlet and Violet. And because of that, in December, look at how far down this went. It went to $78.41. That is nowhere near wholesale cost. That is way lower than wholesale cost. That's about wholesale cost. If you had a really big account during the Sword and Shield era, the old MSRP pricing, that's a really good wholesale cost back then. But obviously with Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon started rising costs a little bit, or raising costs a little bit, and because of that, wholesale price went up. You went from basically, if you had a huge account like a Troll and Toad or something like that, you could probably find booster boxes wholesale price for about $78, and then you move up to like $86, $87, $88 with the Scarlet and Violet generation. If you're a smaller store or not the size of Troll and Toad, which is the majority of us, you're probably paying $90, $92, $93 right now for a wholesale cost. So Scarlet and Violet way below that at $78.41. But now, if you see what's happened over the past several months, it started to inch upwards. And I think part of that, a lot of it is just because of content creation that's out there. A lot of people paying more attention to what's going on in the market, and they're trying to get into these boxes while they're at their cheapest possible price point. Maybe they do want to rip product open, or maybe they do want to hold on to it. But because of that, Scarlet and Violet is one of those sets that's increasing quite a bit now over the past few months. It's sitting at $98.37, so still sub 100. And like I said, you can still find cases out out there for fairly inexpensive. You can probably find them for, you know, $540, $550, but definitely starting to move upwards, sitting at $98.37 right now. If you look at the cases, they're currently sitting at $534.58. However, less and less that are available at that point in time. If you look at its low point, at one point in time it was at $497.76 per booster box. So you get 6 booster boxes in a sealed case. So it's basically just over $80 per booster box. And now it's started to trend upward a little bit. So it's sitting at $534 right now. So that's what, closer to $90, I guess, per case, just under $90 per box for an entire case, but way below still where it was in June, where it was just over $100 per box at $605.28, but starting to trend upward a little bit. Here's the Elite Trainer box for Scarlet and Violet. Now this is the more expensive one. There's also a Koraidon one, so this is the Miraidon variant. So there's a red one that's Koraidon, much more inexpensive, but this one's starting to trend in the upward direction again, sitting at $38.48 currently, but well above its low point, which was in November when it hit $29.14. So starting to move back up. It's sitting at $38.48 currently, still a little bit off of its one-year high, but starting to trend upward again. So here is Paldea Evolved, which is kind of the big set, the one that you've probably heard the most about throughout Scarlet and Violet, and continues to draw a lot of headlines over the past couple months, now that, at least at the time of recording this video, is out of stock on the Pokemon Center website. Now I fully anticipate it coming back in stock at some point, but as of right now, as recording this video, it is out of stock on the Pokemon website, and that's at $160 MSRP price. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to that. I hope they do reprint a set like Paldea Evolved, and that could be selfish reasons behind it, but I do want to look at pull rates because pull rates changed. There's no denying it. Pokemon definitely changed pull rates, temporal forces, Twilight Masquerade. Very different than what we got from Paldea Evolved. When you open up a box of Paldea Evolved, you get a special illustration rare, at least one in a booster box. I want to see a reprint because I want to open up a few cases and I want to see if it's still the same as what I'm used to in Paldea Evolved, or if it's new pull rates altogether. That, I think, is going to be very interesting. In February of 2024, this one was sitting at $91.58, so it never got below $90. You could find it in a sealed case for cheaper than that. You could probably find it outside sources like eBay or maybe a TikTok coupon, something like that, where you were able to find it for under $90. But $91.58 was the lowest point it's gotten to. That was in February of 2024, and it blew up a lot over the past couple months, probably because of all the attention that's been paid to it. It jumped up to $128.82 recently, sitting at $127.86 currently, but definitely trending in the upward direction. Same things with the case. This is a sealed case right here. You can see at one point in time it was at $552.07, so just above $90 per booster box, based off of the fact that a sealed case is 6. Look what it's done over the past just a couple months. Like, it's jumped all the way up to $746.24 and continuing to go upward. So $746, obviously you're looking closer to about $112 per booster box and continuing to go up. So definitely a lot of movement on that. This is the Paldea Evolved Elite Trainer box. It didn't hit as low as the Scarlet and Violet one. Lowest it got was $28.73. That was back in September of 2023. Lots of Elite Trainer boxes out there. Those are kind of the forgotten product, it seems, now in set releases. Despite the fact that Pokemon now puts a promo card in them, I think a lot of people only open up one because your price per pack just really isn't very good. And a lot of people are like, well, I would rather get the exclusive one through the Pokemon Center website than that has the stamp on it than just a normal Elite Trainer box. So I think a lot of these just kind of sit, unfortunately. $28.73, well off of its one-year high of $39.73. It did start trending up a little bit, but it's been relatively flat now over the past 6-7 months, sitting at $35.10 currently. Here is Obsidian Flames. Obsidian Flames is going to be a very interesting set. So very strong pull rates. It's going to be a lot of fun for people to open for quite some time because you do get strong pulls in it. This was kind of the last set where I think Pokemon was like, whoa, pull rates are too good. We need to change things up a little bit. It does also have the special illustration rare Charizard in it. It's got the gold Charizard in it. It's got the regular Charizard in it. It's got the full. There's a lot of Charizards in this set. And because of that, I do think it's going to be something that people like, kind of like Burning Shadows for quite some time, except better pull rates. In March of 2024, this had jumped up to $106.98. Now, it came back down a little bit, but still well above its one-year low of $93.62. It's basically been a $100 booster box for the past few months now, sitting at $102.06 currently. If you look at the sealed cases of it, this one's been trending up quite a bit over the past few months. You can see in March it had dropped down to about $546.65, but now over the past few months it's risen up about 10% and continuing to go upward. So it's sitting at $605.79. That's an all-time high for Obsidian Flames. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the set. But like I said, a sealed case is is going to get you just about the entire set. So that's something that people might remember moving on into the future. Here's the booster box, or the Elite Trainer box right here. The Charmander in this Elite Trainer box was very popular in competitive play because it's the Charmander that you want to play, but it also has really cool artwork in it. And I think that this is going to be a very popular Elite Trainer box when it comes to all of the Elite Trainer boxes from the Scarlet and Violet generation. This seems to be the one that people really enjoy the most. It did drop down to $33.04, so you're not looking at the high $20 prices like what we saw from Scarlet and Violet and Paldea Evolved. Lowest this one has got was $33.04. Now it's sitting at $36.99, which is still about 7% below its high point, which was $38.13, but it has been moving up over the past couple months. Here's Paradox Rift, which is also trending upward. This one seems to still be in stock at a lot of distribution centers, however, in much less numbers. So this one in December was at $89.52. This is when I really started opening product and noticing a difference as far as the pull rates go. I started noticing that you only got one special illustration rare or a hyper rare in a booster box, as opposed to the opportunity of getting two, which happened basically in every single box with Obsidian Flames, Paldea Evolved, in Scarlet and Violet base. So Paradox Rift definitely started changing things up. You do see a little bit of a blip in December where it jumped up to almost $100, and then it came back down in March of 2024. It was right around $92, still a little bit above its 6 months low of $89.52, but now it's gained quite a bit. So you're looking at about 12% that it's gained over the past few months. It's sitting at $102.15 currently, but a lot of booster boxes, a lot of cases, even in Scarlet and Violet, starting to trend in the upward direction. In January of 2024, the case of Paradox Rift was sitting at $487.25, so you're looking at about $80 for a booster box. Not bad at all, but that only lasted for a short period of time. In January of 2024, it was back over $500 and then continuing to move upwards. It's sitting at $572.14 currently, and just going up from there. Here's Temporal Forces. This is when we started noticing pull rates changing quite a bit. This one's been relatively flat over the past few months, but you don't see it drop below $90 like we did with the other booster boxes. So beginning of April, this was sitting at $99.87. It's been relatively flat, but not a whole lot of product that's available at distribution when it comes to booster boxes of Temporal Forces. Did start gaining a little bit of ground at the end of May there. It jumped up to about $166. Now it's backed off a little bit. It's sitting at $105.25, so still off of its 1 year high, or its 3 month high of $110.49. Still very, very early on, and I do think a lot of these sets are going to get reprinted, but definitely didn't see the giant drop like what we saw from the other Scarlet and Violet sets. The sealed case kind of doing the same thing. It did drop to $569.62. That was at the end of March. It's been slowly gaining a little bit of that back, so it's sitting at $596.29, only gaining about 5% of it back, but less and less availability at those lower slots. We're also at a point now where a lot of LGSs aren't getting force allocated anymore, so they're kind of ordering what they think the demand is going to be at their storefront, and since profit margins are so low on a lot of these sealed products, a lot of people not carrying a lot of these new sets, or as much of these new sets anymore. Here's Scarlet and Violet 151. Scarlet and Violet 151 has just done outstanding. We talked about this recently. You can see in December of 2023, this is a set that really a lot of people are kind of screaming for a reprint. We had huge reprints of Pokemon 151, which have really shaken up the market. But Scarlet and Violet 151 continuing to move upward. It's a great looking ETB. Obviously, pull rate's a little bit different in this one as well, but it's well above MSRP right now, sitting at $63.71 and continuing to trend upward. Now, you do still find some of these out and about, but it seems like much less quantities that are available out there. They are getting repurposed, re-released out there very, very slowly, but not a giant reprint like what we're accustomed to. Here's Paldean Fates. This one has been steadily going down quite a bit. This kind of reminds me of like Shining Fates. Like Shining Fates was mass printed like crazy. We don't see the giant hit to the singles in Paldean Fates, but I think Paldean Fates is a fun set for people to open. You get a lot of baby shinies and things like that, but it's a daunting set to try and finish, to try and complete. So I think a lot of people are focusing on the singles of that set instead of buying sealed product to crack. When this set originally released, it was right around $45.46, which is a little bit above MSRP, but it's dropped quite a bit. In April of 2024, it had fallen to $35.27. It's getting about 10% of that back, so it's sitting at $39.33 currently, and that's the last set that came out that's not Twilight Masquerade. Twilight Masquerade kind of hovering right around $100 right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens with a lot of these sets, because booster box is not really available for ordering right now, but they're still selling out there for very close to wholesale pricing, maybe a little bit above wholesale pricing. So it'll be very interesting to see what Pokemon does moving forward with how they want to reprint things, and very interesting to see how, if we compare that to Sword and Shield, what it looks like. So definitely keep an eye on things, but you don't see the $80 booster boxes anymore. Like what we saw with Scarlet and Violet base, what we saw with Paldea Evolved at the beginning, what we saw with Obsidian Flames. Now it seems like $95, $100 seems to be kind of more of the floor because there's a little bit less available. Pull rates seem to be getting a little bit more difficult. We've got this Team Rocket set that we don't know anything about yet, that should be coming out sometime in the near future, maybe the end of this year. So a lot of interesting things going on in Pokemon right now. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Very exciting. But I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button down below. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking the time to listen. Love you guys. Leave a comment. I don't even know what I'm saying. Thanks so much. I'll be back tomorrow. Until next time, peace.